Hello, beautiful Facebook fam. Emily the Diamond here. Thanks for joining me today. Things are coming together finally with our lovely house. We moved house really quickly because of a change in our arrangements with some tenants we had in here. And then 4 days after we moved in, we were due to go overseas. So we have come back. We've been back for just over a week and a bit. And we are slowly getting all unpacked, starting to feel really, really good here. So I'm going to start vibes from the office. So thank you for coming in here. And I want to talk today about what makes change just so messy. And this is one of the reasons that we avoid making significant changes in our lives and in our businesses, is because change is inherently messy. There are three main strategies that humans use for change. One of them doesn't work completely, but it keeps us very busy and spinning our wheels, and we feel sort of gratified because we feel like we are making change, okay? But there's two that actually work. I'm going to take you through all three, talk about why that one doesn't work, why those other two do work, and then, of course, encourage you, if you aren't already in my groups, to get into my group. So I've got a business group specifically for business owners, and look, for years people have been calling me a business coach, and I've always felt really ick about that. And that is because I don't really believe that I coach people around their businesses. I'm a transformational leadership coach. I work with the psychology of the leader. And then, of course, all the structural things that we do with an organization around management and systems are the logical fallout of that leadership. So I've always felt a bit funny about that idea of being a business coach. So I call myself a transformational leadership coach because ultimately we're all here leading ourselves, leading the groups in our lives that matter to us. And then if you just happen to be in the arena of business, if that's the area of life where you take yourself on and you challenge yourself, then that's another area where transformational coaching makes such a radical difference. So let's talk about why this is so messy. Okay, so there's three strategies. The first strategy is imagine, and for this whole thing, we're going to imagine like a cupboard. Okay, imagine a bookshelf. Probably better to imagine a cupboard with a door that you open up and there's a whole bunch of stuff inside than a bookshelf, because a bookshelf's always on display. So the first thing is we open the cupboard, we see that it's not working, we see that it's dysfunctional, maybe we can't access things, maybe we can't see, maybe we don't even know what's in there, and we go, oh, or if I just move a few things around, so I don't take anything out, I don't add anything new in. If I just move around what's in there to try and get a sense of what's in there, then that'll feel like I'm making some progress and I'm making some change. Now, that is not change. That's what we call tidying, okay? And humans can keep themselves busy tidying forever. So we can move things around, we can create little bits of space, but then very shortly that space will get filled with something else and suddenly it's all cluttered again and we can't see again. So that's the first way that people try and make change, through what I call tidying, okay? So I'm just going to tidy up this area of my life. I'm just going to tidy up a little bit in my communication. I'm just going to tidy up a bit in my relationships, in my communication. I'm just going to tidy up in my management systems a little bit. This version of change called tidying. So we don't actually change anything because we don't assess what's working, we don't assess what's not working, we don't assess what we want to get rid of, we don't assess what we want more of, what is missing or what is needed. Okay, we do this tidying. Okay, and then all of you will know this. You'll have the experience of this. But the only real way to like clean out that bottom third drawer or clean out a cupboard is you actually have to pull everything out and put it on the floor. And Marie Kondo does this really well when she does people's wardrobe changes. She gets everyone to put everything on their bed, and lay it all out so they can fully see everything. And this is the same in business change. We've got to lay out all the figures to know what we can make our decision based on some data. We've got to lay out all the choices and opportunity. A client today was talking to me about, in their business situation, they're talking about their risk profile with trademarking. And the only way for us to come to an informed choice and make a good strategic decision is to lay it all out. So get all the data, get all the advice, look at the risk profile, lay it all out like Marie Kondo would lay a real clothes out. But for years I just used to talk about this as like emptying out the linen cupboard, open up the door, pull everything out onto the floor. And it's disgusting and it's messy, but it's the only way for us to tell the truth about what's really going on, what the landscape really looks like, and what we're dealing with. From there, we can start to do those assessments of, what do I need to get rid of completely? What do I need to do less of? What do I need to do more of? What's completely missing? What structure and system is missing? Now, for those of you who have ever emptied out the linen cupboard, you'll know that something magical happens. which is once it's all down on the floor, you start making those logical decisions around what's missing, what I've got too much of, what I haven't got enough of, what I need to work harder on. The brain also starts to do this thing, which is around identifying a system. So part of the process of emptying out is our brain does this great thing of automatically then looking at too, when I put it all back in the cupboard, am I putting it back in the same way? Or am I designing a new system, either through organisation or through logic or through ease or through access? And I know that this has been talking about a cupboard, but you can see this, how this applies over to relationships, our health and wellbeing, how we manage our own personal finances, how we manage our communities that we interact with. We've got conflict, unresolved issues from the past, or our business, okay? We start to assess, is there a better way to do this? And our brain naturally has a gear for that. And it is just one of the biggest gifts of the frontal lobe, the human frontal lobe, is that we have a setting which is looking for how can I always do this better. Now, if you're under stress and duress, often you won't have cognitive space for that final piece of magic called, can I do it better? Is there a better way? And that's one of the areas where having coaching or being in a guided coaching program makes all the difference, because you get external perspective. That external perspective temporarily does what we call disassociates you, which means it disconnects you from the stress response. And that stress response is then where your judgment can get clouded, your creativity gets reduced, your imagination, your ability to think things through logically or do sequences of logic. That's what we want to reduce your stress response for. And that's why with coaching, we mainly talk about that it's not about ever really working on the mechanics of the problem, it's working on the mechanics of the psychology. So coming back to our metaphor, the second way we do this change is we dump everything out onto the floor in its entirety. Now, when we're working on businesses or you're working on something like your marriage, these are big cupboards with lots of stuff in them, okay? So the idea of dumping everything out onto the ground kind of becomes, well, hang on, I would have to grind everything to a halt. And this is a different client in a business scenario today, talking specifically about his change initiatives. And, you know, he's got a very large operation that's running a lot of infrastructure, which means there's a lot of risk. You can't just stop a business, just like you can't just stop something like a marriage. You might be able to temporarily pause things and say, hey, we're just going to take pressure off and we're going to revisit this, or I'm going to go do this, you're going to go do that, and then we're going to come back together. But when you're running a business or running a family or running a big community group, anywhere where things are quite complex, you can't stop the action. That's like just saying, oh, well, we're in the middle of a flight of an airplane over an ocean, and one of the smoke alarms is faulty. We're just going to stop the plane while we're over the ocean to fix that smoke alarm. It doesn't work like that, okay? Even when they've got a belligerent passenger on the plane, they don't stop the plane, they isolate the passenger. So this secret here is around isolation. So when you've got very complex systems, the way of changing, you can't pull everything out onto the floor. You can strategically, you can get a map, you can get an insight, but operationally we can't do that because the operation would grind to a halt. Now, this has been done before. Some companies bank enough cash that they can close their doors temporarily, stop trading, they set up their customers, and they do a forced change period. It's very unusual, okay? So what's typically usual is instead of pulling the whole cupboard out onto the floor, we pull out a shelf at a time, which means the rest of the organisation can maintain momentum, or the rest of the family, like in the example of doing it in a marriage or a family or a community group situation where there's a lot of complexity, a lot of moving parts. So we pull out a shelf at a time. We lay that out and we do the assessment. What do I want? What do I want to keep? What do I want to change? What do I want to chuck out? What do I want to reorganise? What do I want to keep for later because it's got potential? Okay, and that is the three different ways we do change. So like I said, the tidying up version, just moving things around, we don't call that cleaning, we call that tidying, and I don't call that change. So I call that the tidy up version of change. And then we have the radical change, which is the whole cupboard, we pull everything out. And speaking with a client yesterday, I do this process called a detailed personal history, where I take through all the key areas of life and we assess everything. And that's how I determine if I'm going to work with you one-on-one and do some personal leadership work. In the business consulting, you do a different process. But in the personal work, we do this detailed personal history. So I get a full snapshot of everything. And then I do a report for you. So I work out exactly what's going on, what are the themes, what are the presenting patterns in your life, what are the causative behaviours, what are the sources of them, and then I'm able to design a plan to work out exactly what we need to do, what processes we're going to use, what techniques we're going to implement, which particular concepts that you'll need training in to do that, filling the gap between where you are now to being able to make those particular behavioural changes that you want to make. And then we couple unconscious change with that training work so that it sticks, so that you've got the resources for yourself. And in this person's detailed personal history, of course, I got a map of everything. And then it became confronting for them because that report designed a plan which is addressing all their key areas. And it's a bit overwhelming because it's addressing all of our lives. And what I had to reassure them on is you can do shelf by shelf. So you don't have to take on everything, but working with a skilled coach, they'll be able to help you identify what is one particular shelf. So even my books are organized a particular way. There's a theme to my bookshelves of those types of books and those types of books. Okay, so most of these are to do with my vocation, thinking systems, change processes, psychology, and then up here, it's to do with investment, infrastructure, finance. Okay, so all of that is because I know that if I want to clean out my finance books and make change, I just take out that shelf, all right? But that's from years of having all my books jumbled up, right? So over the time, as I would pull everything out, my brain started to develop systems, okay? Just like we have those systems in our communication, just like we have those systems in our personal care, the way we run our lives, the way we run our relationships, our community groups, and our businesses. So this is a little taste for you of the type of approach that we take in terms of looking at change. Is someone ready for the big radical change? And like I said, in businesses, it is very, very rare that you will do the full empty the whole cupboard out. Okay, you'll do it theoretically and strategically. You will not do it operationally or in how you execute the change. They're very different stages of change. Personally, some people do want to take themselves on. So last year I had about 7 people do the full whole thing, okay? And then that is the longest, most intensive work that they do. It's also the most rewarding. So when you deal with everything holistically, and not everyone is ready to do that in terms of the level of stress they're under, the pressure they're under, and then also the financial commitment it takes to do that kind of work together. But that's the sort of thing that you can start to think about and consider going, where can I do some shelf by shelf change in my own life? Because sure, having a skilled coach does all that work, disassociation, reducing your stress, giving you feedback that increases your probability of you getting your results, giving you strategies and techniques that you didn't have access to, and also with a coach like me where I couple it with behavioural and unconscious change work, that accelerates it and that maximises its impact. However, we are all already moving through our lives making change already. So my encouragement here for you is if you're going, there's aspects I want to keep, change, chuck out, reorganise or get rid of or keep for later in my life, you can start to apply your shelf by shelf method on yourself, okay? And often all that takes is just that little carving out or sticking your foot in the door, I call it, sticking your foot in the door, forcing that little bit of time where you do some reflective thinking, making some notes and solidifying it, getting it out of your head around what is the shelf that I would want to clear out? What is the thing I would want to address, take away, keep, chuck out, reorganize, keep for later? What are the particular aspects? Because that idea of taking on everything all at one time, especially if you're in a business or in a complex system like a marriage or family, dumping everything out to be assessed for change is high risk, high stress, and won't often see you have the result you want to achieve because you're overwhelming yourself. So I want you to consider just, if it was like a bookshelf, what's one shelf I could take out at a time and just work on that aspect, that targeted aspect of change. Also, there's an aspect around change, which is being scientific in your method, being scientific in your process, which is when you make a whole bunch of changes all at the same time, unless you've got very deliberate measurement systems, it then can become almost impossible to track what is the thing that made the difference, what is the thing that worked and what is the thing that didn't work. So this deliberate, methodical process of picking the right chunks at the right time to make the changes, and like I said, that's what a skilled coach can assist you with because we've done it with thousands of people before. That work is going, okay, I know if I impact this area, it's going to have flow-on effects in these other areas. But also when I do it in isolation, I know exactly the result I got. So if that worked, then I can apply that to other areas, and you're getting this really great return on investment and your energy, time, and money that you're putting into your change efforts. Okay, well, I'm going to jump off. This is a shout out too. If you haven't joined into my groups, I run a group for personal leadership, which is the Enough Already group, which is taking people from that hypercritical, high performer, super tough on yourselves, that's the toughness to enoughness concept. So that group is called Enough Already. The link is in the comments here. And then there's my group specifically just for business owners, which is called the Entrepreneurial Group. So that group is ultimately about giving you resources and insights as business owners, and for the people who worked for me in business before, they can come in and get a little top up. I've been working in businesses now since 2005, and I've been in business since 1999, so this is my 20-year anniversary this year, which is really crazy and funny. So I wanted to share with you that I'm here to give you those support and resources. All you do is jump into those groups. Okay, take care. Bye. Thanks for the people who logged in. Bye.